I was in my garage, elbow deep in the engine of my old Harley when the piece shattered with a series of loud bangs on my front door. Before I could reach it, the unmistakable sound of splintering would rang out. Two bulky men in tactical vests barged in, shouting, "You're in violation." Big mistake. They had no idea who they were dealing with. They didn't know that I, Sam Callahan, had retired after 25 years as a Marine Corps mechanic with 3 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan under my belt. They also didn't know that within the next 48 hours, 30 bikers with military backgrounds would roll into Oak Ridge Hollow to remind them what real authority and community looked like. I'd moved into Oak Ridge Hollow for peace and solitude. The place seemed ideal, a quiet suburb, good property values, and a garage big enough to restore my Harleys. The steep $450 HOA fee seemed reasonable when it promised maintenance and security. I never imagined that behind those promises lurked a group more obsessed with power than with community welfare. The HOA, under its former president William Trent, had been firm but fair. But all that changed when a slick ex-corporate security consultant named Garrett Monroe took over. Within days, 32 pages of new community standards landed in every mailbox. They covered everything from acceptable curtain colors to how many lawn ornaments you could have. Garrett strutted around like a general on a mission. He hired 4 rent-a-cop types with SUVs and slap-on magnetic HOA logos. They patrolled like they were running a paramilitary operation. It started with neighbors getting fined for trash cans, lawn height, or porch lights. Then came the letters to me. First about my garbage cans, then oil stains from my Harley, and finally the American flag in my garage. That flag had flown above my unit's compound in Fallujah. Garrett said it was non-compliant. I told him to shove his aesthetic standards. When he smiled and said, "Rules are rules, Mr. Callahan. No one is above them," I knew this was going to get ugly. Soon, others whispered their own stories. My elderly neighbor, Mrs. Granger, who lost her husband in Vietnam, had her memorial garden declared a landscaping violation. The Ramirezes got fined over their kid's basketball hoop. Sarah Conrad, a single mom and ER nurse, was cited for leaving her porch light on past curfew, something she needed for her safety after night shifts. I began documenting everything. Every letter. Every violation. I installed security cameras around my property, which prompted another violation notice for unauthorized surveillance equipment. When my buddy Derek from our motorcycle club, the Iron Sentinels, came over, one of Garrett's goons photographed us for a noise violation. The bike hadn't even started. More violations followed. $500 for unauthorized mechanical work. Then came the surveillancia car parked outside my home at odd hours, the same 2 men always inside. They said they were consultants. One Sunday, during a barbecue with fellow veterans, we were hit with a $500 fine for an unauthorized gathering, despite it being a private event. Camera footage showed Garrett himself placing the notice. The final straw came when they forced their way into my home. Garrett and his top thug, a guy named Bryce who'd once been a mall cop, slammed through my front door under the pretense of an emergency inspection. Bryce wore a vest with HOA security in bold letters. They cited bogus sections of the bylaws and rifled through my garage, even tearing down my flag. When Bryce tossed that flag onto my workbench like it was trash, I nearly lost it. Only Garrett stepping between us kept me from laying him out cold. They knocked over a photo of my Unit 1 brothers, 8 of whom never made it home. Garrett handed me a paper with $4,500 in fines and told me I had 72 hours to pay up or face a lien. They walked out laughing. As soon as they were gone, I called Derek. He was the president of the Iron Sentinels and a former JAG officer. He didn't need to hear much. "We're coming," he said. Within an hour, 5 members were at my house. They assessed the damage, reviewed my camera footage, and instantly knew we had a major legal case. We got to work. Derek reviewed the actual HOA bylaws, discovering that Garrett's emergency inspection was illegal. Exterior inspections require 48-hour written notice. Nothing allows forced entry. Bryce and Garrett had committed breaking and entering, trespassing, and property damage. Derek began filing formal complaints. Our other club members, Rodriguez, a former military police officer, and Dawson, an ex-SWA Phelps, set up more surveillance. Wilson, our eldest member and a Vietnam vet, started quietly talking to other residents. We built a secure communication network and compiled dozens of testimonies. The stories were horrifying. Mrs. Granger's roses had been ripped out while she was at a doctor's appointment. The Ramirezes were threatened with health inspections on their family-run food truck. Sarah's daughter, only 12, had been alone when Bryce barged in to inspect for unauthorized occupancy. The fines had added up to over $87,000 in less than a year, but less than $9,000 had been spent on the community. The rest? Funneled into shell companies like Monroe Community Management and Tactical Insight Group registered to Garrett's brother-in-law. We uncovered documents linking these companies to properties acquired through HOA-triggered foreclosures. Garrett was running a racket, fine residents into financial ruin, foreclose on their homes, buy them at auction through shell companies, and use the inflated compliance record as credentials for political office. He was already running for city council, touting his successful HOA leadership. We couldn't wait for courts. We had to act. We planned to confront him at the upcoming HOA meeting. Derek filed emergency legal motions and gathered sworn affidavits from 15 residents. We spent 2 days rallying homeowners, showing them their rights, encouraging them to speak out. On Saturday, 27 Iron Sentinels rode into Oak Ridge Hollow. Our bikes thundered into the clubhouse parking lot, flags flying. Garrett's smug face turned ghostly white when he saw us. Inside the meeting, Garrett tried to shut us down. "This is a private meeting," he stammered. Derek stepped up. "All of us are here as legal guests of residence. Section 3, Article 2. The same rules you've twisted beyond recognition." I stood and addressed the crowd. "My name is Sam Callahan. I served this country for 25 years. And last week, this man and his goon kicked down my door, trashed my home, and desecrated a flag that has more honor in its threads than he'll ever have." Gasps filled the room as I projected footage of the break-in. Garrett tried to interrupt, but Derek read the exact bylaw proving he had no authority to enter homes. Then the residents shared their stories, Mrs. Granger's roses, Sarah's terrified daughter, the Ramirez's business threats. Derek showed the financials. $87,000 collected, shell companies absorbing consulting fees, 3 foreclosures all bought by the same entities. We moved for a vote. The homeowners, finally emboldened, unanimously suspended Garrett and his entire security staff. A new interim board was established. 3 days later, Garrett resigned. Bryce was arrested on outstanding warrants. The district attorney launched an investigation into fraud, unlawful entry, and abuse of power. Volunteers helped Mrs. Granger replant her garden. Flags went up throughout the neighborhood. My own still hangs in my garage, but now it flies over Oak Ridge Hollow to a symbol that even in suburbia, justice and brotherhood prevail when good people stand together. They kicked in my door thinking I was alone. They were wrong. They didn't expect the brotherhood. And they sure didn't expect what real American values look like when pushed too far.